He was born in 1928, and remember, these years in Europe were fairly agitated. He's from a traditional far right of that era, meaning that he was openly racist and often anti-Semitic in in what he would say. He co-created the National Front, the heir party of the National Rally of Marine Le Pen. And when he created the party in 1972, he had as co-founder two people you didn't want to be associated with, Léon Gauthier and Pierre Bousquet, who were former Waffen-SS, that is, French citizens who were officers in the army of the Nazis. So this kind of gives you an understanding of the person that he was and the people that he was associating with.
It's probably fair to describe the reactions to his death from the political mainstream as polite but not exactly glowing. Here's what the French President Emmanuel Macron said. He called Le Pen a historic figure of the far right, says he played a role in the public life of our country for nearly 70 years, which is now a matter for history to judge. How will history judge him?
Fairly poorly. I mean, look, you're right in quoting President Macron. In France, and that's perhaps the Catholic tradition, we respect death and the dead. And so even if you've been a terrible person, people feel like they've got to say something nice enough. And these are the coolest words that could be used to describe him. Indeed, he was a very significant person in French politics for about 7 years. He was first elected in 1956. But he was a very divisive personality, and he ran for 5 different presidential elections. He got very close in 2002. But for most of his political career in the 70s, 80s and 90s, he was someone that most people would refuse to shake hand in public. He was extremely far right. And in fact, he was so far right that when he handed over the reign of the political party to his daughter Marine Le Pen, after 4 years, she excluded her father from the party that he created because what he was saying and what he was advocating for was from a different era. So he will be remembered, but most probably not very positively because of his divisive politics.
I wonder if how much of the sort of current state of French politics can be traced back to his influence. His party, the party that exiled him, put out a statement as well. They described him as the one who, during the storms, held in his hands the small flickering flame of the French nation, who made the national movement an autonomous, powerful and free political family. That party, the National Rally, is now on the doorstep of power in France. Is that Le Pen's legacy here? Was he successful in mainstreaming some pretty controversial views?
So this is a very good question. Look, we can credit Jean-Marie Le Pen for uniting the far right in the 1970s. Traditionally in Europe, and in France in particular, the far right had been very disseminated across tiny factions. And in the early 70s, he got them to work together, and he created that National Front that got bigger and bigger as election went through. But we can't quite compare the National Front of Jean-Marie Le Pen with the National Rally of his daughter, Marine Le Pen. Marine Le Pen, in the last decade, has worked very hard to do what the French call dédiabolisation, to make it less evil than previously. So it's an actual political strategy to make the National Rally less scary to the French. And she's been very successful in doing so. So she would go out, openly criticize her father by saying the National Rally is no longer a racist, anti-Semitic, anti-gay, LGBTQI plus party. So she has tried to tone down the far right aspect of the party to move from the very conservative far right to a more populist anti-immigration party. Now, some people in France will say that this is all a facade, that it's just a mask that they're putting on, but in reality, they are true to Jean-Marie Le Pen's legacy. Others will say that actually she has reformed the party of her father in a way that made the party unrecognizable to Jean-Marie Le Pen himself, who in 2016 actually created a new party, much smaller, to continue to advocate for his ideas. So yes, Jean-Marie Le Pen has a profound legacy in France, but his ideas, the one that he held in the 50s, 60s and 70s, are fortunately from a different era.
The party now of today, while it is reformed, it is detoxified, is another word that I've often seen. It remains a party on the, extreme right of French politics. And we've seen far-right parties across Europe as well strengthening in recent years in countries like Germany and Austria. I wonder if that's part of Jean-Marie Le Pen's legacy as well, a broader European far-right project that is seemingly on the ascendance.
So you're right in bringing up Jean-Marie Le Pen's European connection. He was an MP at the European Parliament for about 34 years, but he was rarely to be seen at the Assembly. In fact, Marine Le Pen is currently undergoing a trial in France for using European money to fund a French political party. So the European connection of Jean-Marie Le Pen and the National Rally is undergoing great scrutiny at the moment. Having said that, it is true that Jean-Marie Le Pen tried to work with other far-right party when he was in office, but that didn't really work out very well. And when we think about European politics, he is one that has often criticized European integration and often sided for more French sovereignty. Now, one thing that I'd like to put in perspective with regard to the ways that political spectrums work in different countries is that when you look at, Australia's immigration system, for instance, it's something that even Marine Le Pen or Jean-Marie Le Pen could not dream of. So when we say that they are from the far right, yes, they are, but every country works very differently, and France is far more left-leaning than some other countries. So even if you are in the far right in France, it doesn't mean that you're in the far right everywhere. And that's something to keep in mind. So yes, Jean-Marie Le Pen has had an impact, but most critical really has been the way that Marine Le Pen, her daughter, has transformed the party to become a party that was at the fringes of the political spectrum to a party that is much more central and has done very well in the last legislative election in June. So, and it is a worry for other French political parties.
Dr. Romain Fathi from the ANU. It is a fascinating time in European politics. Really thank you for your analysis and insight today.
Thank you for your time.